Hello, and welcome to this episode of Science with Verity. Today we will be looking at homeostasis. Homeostasis is the maintenance of an organism's internal environments to ensure that their cells are not subjected to extremes caused by external fluctuation. It ensures that cells are able to work in optimum conditions so that they can work efficiently and so they can function despite differences in the external environment. However, there are fluctuations around a set point due to temperature differences both inside and out of the body, pH levels within the body, and differences in water potential. Homeostasis is the body's ability to remain within a set point. It is important for an organism to function properly for a variety of reasons. Enzymes which control biochemical reactions within cells and various proteins are incredibly sensitive to various changes, particularly in temperature and pH. Any change to these factors reduces efficiency, often to the point where the enzyme is denatured and therefore cannot work. Homeostasis allows for the reactions to be constant and predictable. Changes in water potential cause cells to shrink or expand, occasionally to bursting point, due to water entering or leaving via osmosis. In either case, cells cannot function properly. Homeostasis provides cell with a regular store of blood glucose and maintains a constant water potential through the presence of the glucose. Homeostasis also allows organisms to be more independent of the external environment in which they live, allowing them to live in a wider geographical area whilst maintaining their advantage when finding food or shelter. Homeostasis is carried out through control mechanisms and involves a series of stages. It consists of the set point, which is the desired level at which a system operates, a receptor, which detects the deviation from the set point, the controller, which groups information from receptors, and relays instructions to an effector, which carries out the response, creating the final part, which is a feedback loop. Homeostasis is used in thermoregulation, the ability for an organism to maintain its body temperature so that its enzymes are not denatured by too high a heat, or slowing the rate at which the enzymes work when it is cold. All animals can regulate their body temperature and so can control heat gain and heat loss. Methods of gaining heat include the self-production of heat through the metabolism of food during respiration and through CCR. CCR is also used to help organisms lose heat, as well as the evaporation of water. CCR stands for conduction, convection, and radiation. Conduction is the transfer of energy from particle to particle in solids. Heat causes the particles to gain kinetic energy, and this is transferred through the material. Convection occurs in fluids, which are liquids and gases, and heat is transferred due to the movement of the warmed matter. Heat causes fluids to expand and rise. Radiation is different in that it takes the form of waves, and when the waves make contact with an object, the heat is transferred. Ectotherms gain heat from their environment, and this results in their body temperature being dictated by their habitat. Therefore, their behavior changes to control their body temperature. Exercise does not provide heat for an ectotherm, because the rate at which they respire is too low to provide rapid movement. They control their body heat through various means. Exposure to the sun is achieved by the ectotherm positioning themselves in a place where maximum heat can be absorbed. Taking shelter is used to reduce their body temperature, although at night and in winter, ectotherms will retreat to shelters or burrows so that they can reduce their loss of heat to the environment. They gain warmth through methods of conduction, where they press their body to the ground, lifting when they have reached an optimum temperature. Respiration does produce some body heat. Ectotherms can also be coloured to the habitat as a form of increasing the amount of heat they absorb from their surroundings. Darker coloured ectotherms are generally found in colder climates due to the higher absorption of heat to the dark areas. Endotherms, however, gain most of their heat through internal metabolic processes. Like ectotherms, they employ behaviours to raise and reduce their body temperatures, but also use physiological mechanisms to regulate their temperature. Within a cold environment, some adaptations occur over a long period of time, like the build-up of fat reserves, whereas others are more immediate. Rapid changes are brought about through various methods. Vasoconstriction is the reduction of the diameter of surface arterioles, limiting the volume of blood which reaches the skin surface. This results in most of the blood passing beneath an insulated layer of fat. Shivering is the involuntary contraction of muscle producing metabolic heat. Raising of hair enables a layer of still air to form, providing greater insulation and heat conservation. Increased metabolic rate is the result of a greater production of the hormones which promote increased metabolic processes such as respiration. Sweating decreases, and there are behavioral mechanisms which help endotherms keep their internal temperatures up, basking or sheltering from the wind. There are some long-term adaptations which allow endotherms to lose heat to their environment under warm conditions, such as a large surface area to volume ratio and light-coloured fur to reflect heat. Rapid responses are seen to be the opposite to those of the cold environment responses. Vasodilation is the increase of the diameter of the arterioles near the skin surface, allowing warm blood close to the skin and letting heat radiate from the body. Increased sweating allows heat to evaporate with water as it leaves the skin surface. Animals with fur will pant, achieving the evaporation of water as air passes over the tongue rapidly. Hair erect muscles on the skin relax, causing hairs to flatten against the body, reducing the layer of insulating still air and allowing more heat to be lost to the environment. Behavioral mechanisms include the seeking of shade to prevent the body temperature from rising. Body temperature is controlled by the hypothalamus, which acts as the coordinator. It has two centers, one for heat loss and one for heat gain. It works in tandem with the thermoreceptors found on the skin. The thermoreceptors send impulses along the autonomic nervous system, which gives the hypothalamus information regarding the organism's external environment and allows an organism to prepare for changes, as the thermoreceptors can give advanced warning. The feedback loop works so that the normal blood temperature remains around 37 degrees in humans. An increase in temperature is detected by the receptors, and the heat loss center in the hypothalamus is triggered. This center aids in the loss of heat from an organism and puts the physiological mechanisms which an organism needs to reduce its body heat into place. A decrease in temperature is detected by thermoreceptors, and the heat gain center in the hypothalamus is triggered, allowing the body temperature to increase through various physiological techniques mentioned previously. Homeostasis is also used to regulate blood glucose levels, but this is controlled by hormones rather than the nervous system. Hormones are produced by glands which are part of the endocrine system. They are carried in blood plasma to the cells on which they are to work, known as target cells. Hormones are effective in small quantities and are widespread with long-lasting effects. The second messenger model is employed when talking about glucose regulation within the bloodstream. The first messenger is the hormone which binds to specific receptors on the cell surface membrane and forms a hormone receptor complex. The second messenger is an enzyme that is activated by the hormone receptor complex formation, and so the response is carried out. Pancreas is a large and pale gland which is situated in the upper abdomen behind the stomach. Though it is mostly adapted for producing digestive enzymes, situated throughout the pancreas are tiny groups of cells known as the islets of Langerhans. They are a collection of alpha and beta cells. Alpha cells produce the hormone glucagon, and the beta cells produce the hormone known as insulin. Glucose has to be regulated within the bloodstream so that there is a constant supply that is available to cells at all times. Glucose is the main substrate for respiration, and without a constant supply, cells will be deprived of energy, and for some, like brain cells which only respire glucose, it can be fatal. Too high a level can change the osmotic properties and cause problems due to the change in water potential of the blood. Blood glucose should be kept at a level of around 90 mg per 100 centimeters cubed. There are three main sources that glucose is retrieved from. 1. Direct from the diet of the organism, glucose is the product from the breakdown of many polysaccharides and carbohydrates. 2. Glycogenolysis is the breakdown of glycogen and occurs in the liver and muscles. An ordinary liver will have between 75 to 100 mg of glycogen due to the process of glycogenesis from excess glucose in the bloodstream. And 3. Gluconeogenesis is the production of glucose from other sources such as amino acids and fats. In the islets of Langerhans, the beta cells detect a rise in the blood glucose levels, and so insulin is secreted as part of the response. All cells within the body have receptors for insulin, and the hormone receptor complex which forms brings about several changes. The tertiary structure of the protein channel changes, opening and allowing glucose into the cell. There is an increase of carrier molecules in the cell surface membrane, and the activation of enzymes which convert glucose into fat. As a result of this, blood glucose levels are lowered through various ways. The increase of the rate of absorption occurs in muscles which use the glucose to respire. It increases the rate at which cells respire, speeding it up, so more glucose is used and more is then taken up from the blood. Glucagon is secreted by alpha cells when a fall in the blood glucose level is detected. There are only receptors on the liver cells, and these specific receptors bind to glucagon. This raises the blood glucose level by activating enzymes which convert glycogen to glucose and cause gluconeogenesis to occur, a process of converting other substances such as fats and proteins into glucose. Adrenaline is one of 4 other hormones which raise the blood glucose level. It is produced in times of stress or excitement and is secreted from the adrenal glands which are found above the kidneys. It works in a similar way to glucagon by activating a liver enzyme, causing the breakdown of glycogen, and it inactivates enzymes which cause glycogenesis. The hormones which keep blood glucose levels steady are antagonistic as they work in opposite ways. When the blood glucose level rises, beta cells detect the rise and produce insulin, causing increased cellular respiration and absorption of glucose into the cells, as well as increased conversion of glucose into different substances. When a fall in the blood glucose level is detected, the alpha cells produce glucagon, and this causes glycogenolysis and gluconeogenesis. Diabetes mellitus is caused by too much glucose in the bloodstream or the inability to break down glucose efficiently. This is due to the amount of insulin being produced being insufficient or no insulin being produced at all. There are two types and both have similar symptoms, which include high levels of thirst, high levels of glucose in the urine, more urine being produced, weight loss and muscle wastage, blurred vision and wounds staying open. Type 1 diabetes accounts for only 10% of all diabetes cases in the UK. It is known as insulin-dependent diabetes due to the body's inability to produce insulin. Often this is caught early on in life, during teenage years, and is due to an autoimmune condition where the beta cells are attacked. This results in sufferers keeping their blood glucose levels in check with regular and daily monitoring and insulin injections or pumps to artificially give the body insulin. Type 2 diabetes occurs due to an insensitivity to insulin known as insulin resistance, or when the body does not produce enough insulin. This is often later diagnosed and can be treated by changing the diet to one which is healthy and with regular monitoring. Occasionally there are instances where insulin medication is used to supplement the body's own production of insulin, so that glucose can be broken down efficiently. There are two disorders which can happen as episodes in regards to diabetes: hypoglycemia and hyperglycemia. Hypoglycemia occurs when blood glucose drops too far and is usually caused by taking too much insulin and has various symptoms such as shaking, sweating and feeling weak and nauseous. Hyperglycemia occurs when there is too little insulin in the bloodstream and so there is too much glucose in the bloodstream. This is symptoms of extreme thirst and a dry mouth as well as blurred vision and drowsiness. Treating hypoglycemia is very simple. In its mildest form, it can be treated by the ingestion of something sugary like a fizzy drink, which is not in its diet form. Severe hypoglycemia requires a glucagon injection to stimulate the production of glucose from glycogen in the liver. Hyperglycemia is treated with diet adjustment and the adjustment of the insulin dose, which must be taken to counteract the change. So, to sum up, homeostasis is the maintenance of the internal environment of an organism, and this allows enzymes to work in their optimum conditions and to keep cells in working order. Control mechanisms are used and have several steps, such as a set point around which there can be fluctuations, receptors to detect the change, coordinators to organize a response, and effectors to carry out that response. Organisms both gain and lose heat through CCR, conduction, convection and radiation. Endotherms can regulate their body temperature with greater ease as they do not have to rely on their external environment. Endotherms are found in a wide variety of habitats due to several adaptations such as the ability to store fat over a long period of time, or light fur to deflect heat radiation. Ectotherms control their temperatures by many means such as basking or sheltering, as well as colour variations. Endotherms control their body temperature in different antagonistic ways depending on the status of the external temperature. Thermal homeostasis is controlled by a combination of thermoreceptors on the skin and the hypothalamus in the brain. The hypothalamus has two centres, one which controls heat gain and another which controls heat loss. The regulation of blood glucose levels is controlled by various hormones. Hormones are widespread and long-lasting and specific to target cells. Second messengers are activated by hormones to carry out this response. The body gets its glucose from three sources: diet, the breakdown of glycogen, and the formation from substances other than carbs. The islets and Langerhans contain alpha cells which detect a drop in blood glucose and increase it by secreting glucagon, and beta cells which detect an increase in blood glucose and help decrease this level by secreting insulin. Adrenaline is one of four hormones which cause insulin to be secreted and works in a similar way to glucagon. Diabetes is caused by the body's inability to produce insulin or its lack of receptiveness to insulin. There are two types. Type 1 is insulin dependent and requires permanent treatment, whereas type 2 is insulin independent and can be treated with a diet change. The treatment of hypoglycemia is typically the ingestion of something sugary or a glucagon injection to increase glucose levels. The treatment of hypoglycemia is through a change in insulin dosage so that the right amount is given, making sure there is enough insulin in the system. Thank you for watching. Science with Verity.